Hello, good morning, everybody. We are so excited to be back with you to share another Women's History Spotlight with you this morning and to just introduce you to some of the amazing women who serve here in Howard County government. Yolanda, who do we have this morning?
Well, happy Friday, and I can't think of, um, anyone more amazing. Well, I can't think of some amazing women, but these two amazing women are instrumental in everything that occurs in the county. I think they touch every office, department, from the smallest office to the biggest office. And so we have Anju Bennett, who is the administrator for the Office of Human Resources. And then we have Brandee Ganz, who is the director of the Department of Technology and Communication Services. Did I say that right, Brandee?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, wonderful. I just know acronyms, so then when I have to say it, I'm like, wait a minute. So, but as I mentioned, these two women, they basically keep our our county powered with employees. So Anju sees everyone. We're all coming to Anju to make sure that we have staff. And then Brandee, we couldn't be on now without the technology and the communication. And so Brandee, and I'm sure she can tell stories after stories of all of the frantic calls that people call Brandee with to help. So welcome to both of you.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yes,
Of,
thank you.
of
It's our
course,
honor to be here.
and we're honored to have you. The county is lucky to have both of you women here in Howard County and serving county government and serving the community. One very quick thing, and then I know Claudia is anxious to ask a question, but one quick thing for both of you. How long have you worked with the county, if you can just share that?
Okay, so I started in September of 2021. So I've been here just about 6 months with the county. Followed, more than 3 decades in public service. So I'm just so happy to be here.
Excellent.
And I've been with the county since August of 2015. So
Wow.
almost 7 years. Yes.
Wow.
Okay. Wow. How time flies.
Yeah.
So, Claudia, I know you're ready to jump in with this question. So, shoot.
Yeah. If the both of you could share, and Brandee, we'll start with you since you answered last. What does Women's History Month mean to you?
Women's History Month means so much to me, only because, I know there was a time when women were not valued in the workplace and, we weren't looked at as being a critical part of the workplace. And I think just to be able to look back and see throughout history how much women have done and how we really have gotten to the point of where we're at is extremely important. And not only for us, but for our generations to come and understand everything that we've accomplished as women leaders.
Amazing. Anju?
I think Brandy put it so well. I think for me, the perspective for me is I was an immigrant to this country in the 70s, and that couldn't have happened really without, I think, the trailblazers that I had in my family, women that have led the way, kind of really taken chances. To me, Women's History Month is really about celebrating women that refuse to be silenced, that were not afraid to kind of question norms. And some of those norms, of course, held women back so much. In the world, the female population is generally 50 to 51%. But so many of the laws, not just worldwide, but even in our own nation, were created really for thinking about men. So books that we read is, I have a few years on me, but I remember going through elementary school and junior high school, and the history books would be focused on men, the achievements of men. Our own Constitution, passed in the late 1700s. Really, even though it said "we the people," was really focused on the rights of men. And I think it took really bold women that had to fight a lot of norms. And I say norms because that's what was accepted. There were we were seen as homemakers, and homemakers were not as valued as I think they should be, even now. But they had to fight quite a bit. So the amazing tenacity and perseverance of women to say we deserve equality in voting, through the suffrage movement. I think that was important. We all know as women who those leaders were. But I don't think that we think about, the 19th Amendment was not passed until 1920. That was not that long ago. And when we think about women's history, why it's so important, I think we need to raise awareness that the things that we have right now, the right to vote, the right for equal pay, family medical leave, pregnancy discrimination protections in the workplace, those were led by women. Yes, we had men that helped champion those issues, but the issues were highlighted by women. And I think it's so important that we have women's history, not to celebrate in the workplace, but to Brandee's point, our children, their children, they need to remember that it wasn't so long ago that we didn't have those rights. So I think having women's history reminds us how important and how quickly things can change. And we're lucky to be in a country where we are afforded rights. There's still work to be done, but I think the United States becomes a model for other nations as well. And we got to remember the impact that we have on those folks. So for me, that's the importance of women's history.
Perfect. Thank you, Anju. And actually, part of your answer actually led into my next question about why is it important to have women's voices? And you kind of already alluded to that and mentioned why it's important to have women at the table, hearing women's voices, what issues are important to them and impacting their families. And so thank you for that. But I want to put a kind of a different spin on that, sort of the same, but when we think about technology, quite often you see men highlighted. Probably when you hear the tech world, probably what comes to people's mind is, again, men in the field. And then Brandee, you come through the door and you defy all of those images. And so if you can just share, why it's important to have women specifically in the tech arena.
Absolutely. And thank you for that question. I know historically in the IT world, you do not see women in leadership. And it's so important. Women bring something different to the table. And I think that, we need to have all perspectives when we're looking at things. And everyone needs to understand that women do bring something to the table. As I was growing up, I was someone who was really big into math and science. And I remember having a teacher who in college who told me, well, that's not a field for women. And I was so taken back, and it was something that really actually I'm glad that it happened now because it changed my perspective on things. Mm-hmm. It made me realize how much I had to work and how much I had to do to show people that women can be present and women can be in this field. We are great thinkers, and we have the same abilities that anybody else does to be able to do the same things. And, I think that there are lots of individuals who have, like we talked about, historically thought that it should only be men, but women definitely have all of the same capabilities, and we bring that to the table as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Everyone can probably on this call can say what someone told you could not do. And that something inside you is like, okay, like I'm gonna show you wrong, and obviously you don't know who I am. let me show you. And so I'm sure we can probably have a full conversation of the things you will never do this, you can't do this. So thank you for sharing that, Brandee. Claudia, I know that there was a question we were talking about before that we've asked some of our other participants that came on. Did you want to ask that
Yeah,
question?
absolutely. I would love to know if there are one or two people, that two women in particular, obviously, who you feel like have made a major contribution, either to the world at large or even to you personally. And, when Yolanda first asked Angela and I this, she gave us some grace and gave us two, because she knew we didn't have one. And so I want to extend that same grace to the both of you, as you share with us.
Boy, it's that is such a tough question because I have to say, where I am is really on the backs of so many women leaders. I'll tell you, this goes back to when I first came to this country, and I think I mentioned to you all I didn't speak English when I came to this country, so um, I felt like it was a really tough transition. We left all of our family behind. We're the only folks from my parents' family that made it to the United States. So all of our extended family is pretty much still in India. And I guess over the generations, they've started moving around the world, but we're separated from them. So coming here felt like, wow, what a big shock. And I remember, feeling like, and a little bit of woe is I kind of, feeling. And I was young. I saw my parents struggling. There's, in the 70s, there was still a lot of discrimination, even with the passage of the Equal Rights Act and Title VII protections and so forth. But I remember reading about Ida Wells. And so everyone knows about Susan B. Anthony and some of the other leaders that we gained the right to vote, but people don't know so much about her. And she is a woman that had incredible obstacles, right? She was born enslaved. She didn't really have formal education. I think she had attempted to go to college and she'd dropped out of college because I think she was expelled. She lost her parents when she was a teenager. But even then, she became a business owner. Now she's African American, born in the late 1800s, orphaned, no formal education. She becomes a business owner and she starts newspapers to speak about discrimination. And she had a lot of folks that were not in her camp, right? Even her own people, because they're afraid. That was the time there were a lot of lynchings, uh, incredible disparity, and she pushed forward. And she pushed forward on the issue of lynching. She went to the White House. These are things that women didn't do. And then she's an African American who even had less privileges. And she fought the system. And what she did is showed incredible courage. And I remember my family talking about Ida Wells, right? Because my mother would say, you think you have it bad. We'd always talk about other women that had it bad. And there are obviously a lot of Indian leaders too, like Indira Gandhi. And we'd always talk about how the United States hadn't had a female leader, but we had developing countries that had leaders that were women. So I think she stood out for me so much because she helped guarantee our right to vote. I mean, we have the right because of courageous women like her, and I don't think that she gets enough notice. Right? Like a lot of folks don't learn about her, and I think that's I think that she is like one of the most courageous women. And then I would say the second person for me, and it's really tough. This was a really tough one for me to think about who, but I would say it's my grandmother, my paternal grandmother. So why? Because she knew she was going to lose her son. Her she had lost a number of her children at childbirth or shortly thereafter, and she was going to lose her eldest child to move overseas, and not just a little bit overseas, but way overseas. And back in the 70s, you couldn't afford to go see your parents or your family. If you're migrating or immigrating here or to another country, you are probably not going to see your family for decades. But she had taught my father to think different than in traditional ways. She taught him how to cook. So back in a lot of developing countries, there's always somebody that can help you in the house. But my grandmother chose not to have that. She had 8 children that stayed alive, and she made every single one of them learn to cook. And my father learned to cook. And so when he married my mother, who did not know how to cook, he taught her how to cook. And when
I love it.
Yeah, when we came over to this country, I learned how to cook from him. My mother, who actually was more advanced in her education than my father, she had worked on her PhD before coming to this country. She decided to change careers in her 40s. So he supported her to change her career. And he also supported the 2 women, that were other women in his family, which were his 2 children. And he taught us to fight through barriers, right? So all of us had to learn how to cook, but all of us had to be really good at math, to Brandee's point. All of us had to be really good in science. And when we chose our majors, my dad said, I don't care what you choose, but you will finish college and you will stand on your 2 feet. So, and I think those are really, really important because he came from a very traditional background where women stayed at home. His mother had not gone to college. His sister had not gone to college. So he wanted for us the same thing he wanted for his son. So I have to say his mother taught him those principles. And I think it's our responsibility to make sure the young men and older men in our lives are taught, similarly to not think in stereotypes, but break those traditions.
Absolutely. Brandee?
Anju, thank you for sharing that. That's, sometimes we forget about things that have happened in the past and how we got here. And it's so important that we remember that. First, I want to thank all the wonderful women in Howard County that we work with, because all of you have been such a wonderful influence on me, Yolanda, Anju, Claudia, Angela, several others, and I know that we are all here to support each other and work with each other. And that means all the difference in the world, knowing that we have that peer group and those individuals that will help us to support us. Yeah. There have been several people in my life who've been big influences on me. And I would have to say that my mother, and you can't not mention your mother, right? My mom, as I was growing up, my mom, she stayed at home. There were 5 of us at home, and she did all of the traditional things that Anju was just talking about. She was the one that cooked. She was the one that helped us with schoolwork. She was the one that did all of the laundry, everything, but she always encouraged me to think above and beyond, and to really reach for the stars and make me realize that, I can accomplish anything that I put my mind to, and I am capable of doing all of those things. And she really instilled that in me and helped me to move forward. One of the other people that I just want to mention real quickly who has played a really big role for me is Michelle Obama. Seeing what she did for this nation and this country, and, how she was able to, if you read her book, she when she was younger, she was very shy, and she was afraid to put herself out there. But look at her now, and look at the model and the image that she is for the country. And that, to me, just says so much about women and how we can move forward and what we are capable of being.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay. No, all of those were great picks. Brandee, what's your mom's name?
Polly Moore.
Okay. And Anju, what's your grandmother's name?
Lakshmi Agarwal.
All right. So one of the things Claudia said, her mom, and I was like, we say mom, we say grandma, but we give everyone else a name. And so we need to put their name out there and honor and you pay homage to them as well, instead of just mom. and grandma. So thank you for all of your shares. And Anju, I really appreciate you mentioning Ida Wells, because she is a figure that is quite often forgotten. And with the suffrage movement, there was also the racism issue as well. And so quite often the Black women were pushed and we did not receive the same notoriety. And so I appreciate you bringing up Ida Wells. That is, I do appreciate that. And I still use Michelle Obama saying, when they go low, you go high. Yeah. I have to do that constantly in life. When they go low, you go high. You remember, do not bring yourself down to that. So very quick, because I know we're bumping up on time. I just want you all to give a very quick elevator speech of, if there is someone watching, a young woman that's watching, and or a woman period that wants to aspire to be a leader in her field, what would you say to her?
Brandee, I don't know if you want me to go first.
Sure.
Okay, so I don't know if this is so much an elevator speech, but I think it's so important for young women to read and understand that they're not alone, okay? Because I think that we hear a lot about pushing through and being courageous, but it's the examples of Ida Wells, even some of our leaders or Secretary of States, Madeleine Albright, Condoleezza Rice, all of these women that were told the same things that all four of us have been told, that you can't do this, it's not traditional, it's not a line that women go into, or, I start off as a finance major, I'm in human resources. Human resources might be traditional, but finance might not be. I say, go with your dream. What's your passion? Everyone has a passion. Make your passion your reality, and don't take no for an answer. I mean, all of us have gotten here with lots of no's, but if you are struggling as a young woman, you feel you're not alone, but you have a wonderful group of mentors, right? Not just within your family, but your school systems, your advisors at college, but also in public service. I think any one of us, if we got a call, we'd be a mentor. And the mentors come in traditional and non-traditional ways. I've had wonderful male mentors as well as female mentors, but there's always somebody that's going to be kind of the wind below your wings, right, to carry you. And I say use mentorship, because that is really important, because there are going to be times that things don't seem perfect or seem like a struggle. And it's daunting at times. So mentorship, reading, knowing that the journey is not yours alone. So that's what I would encourage women to think about. And I just want to leave this one piece. In the private sector, women only make up about 25% of CEOs, right? But in the public sector, it's much greater. And right, I think that public sector should always attract the brightest folks. And I think we do have the brightest folks. We have women that lead change in public sector. So I invite for any of the women that are listening and considering where they should start their careers, I would encourage you to think about the public sector, because that's where innovation starts. And that is where you're going to have great mentors.
Thank you for that plug. And then an additional plug, Anju, and Howard County is the greatest place. So
it is, and 57% of our leaders, our executives, are women. So yes.
Well, Brandee.
Just a couple quick things that I want to say. So I do have a younger daughter. And I try to help my daughter to understand the importance of women in the workplace and, everything that can be done. But one of the things that I always find myself saying to her is, what is the one thing that no one can ever take away from you? It's your education, right? And no one will ever take away your knowledge and your understanding of everything that is happening and that is going on. Make sure that you are knowledgeable and that you understand. Get yourself out there. Get into groups. Get into organizations. Work with other individuals and work with people. That gives you a completely different perspective, and it helps you to really understand how women fit in and where we can lead. Another thing, and I agree with what Anju was talking about, was the mentors. Get yourself a really good mentor, someone that you know that you can support, or that will support you, and that you can help to support them too, and lean on them. Ask them those questions, those tough questions, and look for their guidance, and work with other individuals to really determine your place and how you can make a difference.
Perfect. Wow. Thank you so much. And thank you to both of you for allowing us to highlight and celebrate you in today's Howard County Women's History Spotlight. We appreciate everything you do to continue to make Howard County great, both within county government and outside of it. Claudia, you want to close us out?
Absolutely. I appreciate everything you guys have said. This has been such an inspiring conversation, truly. I really do look up to all three of you. And it's really a pleasure working with all of you and getting to know you. To those of you who are watching, it's been great. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. And I want to encourage you to tune in on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, March 22nd at 11 a.m. We will spotlight another woman right here in Howard County. So make sure to see us then, right here on Facebook and on YouTube. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.